Okay, hi guys. All right, so we're here today for our 7th hour intervention literacy PLC meeting. Is there anyone who wants to start by reading the norms?
Alvarez does.
All right, Miss Alvarez, you're rocking it.
I was gonna say it. Show up on time, ready to engage. Be respectful of all opinions. I thought I was reading all of them, right? Be open to discussing and digesting data. Bring new or currently working ideas to share with others.
Everyone is in agreement. We feel comfortable with that. We're good to go.
Good.
Awesome, guys. Okay, so here's the objectives for this meeting. So we're looking at adding an additional teacher. Now we're actually looking at adding 2 additional teachers. The numbers in the lower grades have gotten so big that to target the kids more accurately and appropriately, we need to add another person. Ms. Souza has stepped up to the plate. She'll be taking over group 3B. Ms. Connor will remain 3A. So our schedule has all been adjusted for that. So we're good to go. Ms. Souza is going to be taking a look at all of our lists for the 4 of us, and then choosing between 3 to 4 kids to just pull. And we're going to say, Ms. Souza, you make the choice because it doesn't matter who you really grab, I don't think.
Okay.
So, and we can talk a little more about that if we need to. Our first rotation is scheduled to end November 14th. So November 14th is the last day you will have the group you have now. That's right before conferences. We will not get our new group until we return from Thanksgiving vacation. So that's just something to keep in mind, and that will be on December 3rd with our next group. And the kids don't move, we move. So they have nothing to worry about. They sit at the same table. We just go to our new group. The kids did ask me about prizes. That's going to come up later, and incentives, and we can talk about how we're going to tackle that because we did offer them incentives last year. I feel like it's appropriate to offer them incentives this year too. We're going to talk about utilizing RAS Kids. Ms. Souza and I are almost halfway done getting everybody entered into RAS Kids. By the end of this weekend, we should be done, and everyone should be up and rolling. Okay, so let's start with check-ins, okay, guys? So first things first, let's just see what's working. Like, have you noticed anything about a particular student? Have you seen any successes? That's what we're going to discuss first. Anyone want to share out? Ms. Perkins, what do you think?
So yesterday, Ms. Souza came to the classroom to take roll, but also she and I led a discussion with the 5th and 6th graders about why reading is important. And before that, we had been talking about incentives to get 5th and 6th more interested or invested. And as we started talking, we started saying like all the things you need reading for. You need to take a reading test to drive. You need to read your housing application if you're going to rent an apartment, if you're going to live on your own. All these things, why it's important. And afterwards, the attitude of the kids was so changed. I started asking, who wants to be here now because they want to learn how to read, not because they're going to get some prize? Yeah. And most of the kids raised their hand. So I think if I start out all my classes reminding them why reading is important, I think that in general is just going to have more investment.
I think that's 100% true. I've said the same thing with the little guys. I start out when they first come to me saying, who wants to be able to read a text message? Who wants to be able to send a text message? Who wants to be able to send a message on Facebook? This, social media, the phones, the kids want all that stuff because they see us doing it, but you can't do any of that without reading. So I think you're right, Ms. Perkins, drawing it into real life makes a big difference.
For me, it's just seeing the kids enjoy the passages. Thank you, Ms. Perkins, for the Peter Rabbit. They are so into it. Okay,
awesome.
So I start out. Okay, when we look at our text, how do we know that this is this either informational or is this narrative? So they know that the difference between informational and narrative text. Why? Well, there's a plot, there's characters, and there's a setting, and so they know the difference, the different nuances of that. But just going and reading it and making predictions about the characters and then connecting it to maybe a movie or somebody, that character. Do you know anybody like this character? And I said, who knows what mischievous is? Have you been mischievous? And so you get into this big discussion, and it makes because they were so into it yesterday, they didn't really want it to end.
Awesome.
So that was like a big moment for me, even though I was tired. It made it better, because they're into it. It's like, wow, we could, keep going.
Which, by the way, guys, a huge thank you to you because you have a really good point, Mr. Williams. Not only are we working and obviously have had no vacation in a long time, we're tired in general, but now all of us are extending ourselves even further. So huge thank you for supporting this program and supporting our kids, because I realize we're tired. It takes a lot of extra work for what we're doing. So kudos to you, because obviously not everybody's here, but you are. So thank you. Anybody else have anything that was seeming awesome to you, or?
Well, I'm doing what I'm basically doing with my own class. So I have phonics slides. We except for yesterday, my it doesn't work anymore for me. So and that was all today too. So it's great. But we did it on the whiteboard. So I have little whiteboards. They're writing all the letters down. They're writing down words. They're sounding out the words. They're using their all of this stuff. And it seems like a lot of the kids are getting it. I do have a little bit of a tougher group because they are moving and talking a lot, and it's not really one specific student.
Yeah, it's our little guys, and when you do get the first graders, our 4 friends down in the primary grades, we didn't take our first graders until January last year, and a first grader in January compared to a first grader in October is a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah.
So by the time we roll into January, we should be seeing a difference. But we'll take a look at who gets them next. I think it's me. So,
but they're invested though. They want to be there, because as soon as you threaten, hey, you need to get it together or you're out, and they're just like, straighten up, but they try hard. They're writing it, and then I have an activity at the end using phonics, either identifying beginning, middle, or ending sound, or being able to just blend.
Awesome.
They're into it. They're all about it.
So it sounds pretty, although we had some rough patches with our bigger kids, which we're going to address in a few minutes, it sounds like the engagement is going pretty well. I see the same thing from our second grade group, and interestingly enough, with our second graders, because we did this a year ago, I am actually truly seeing real growth in our kids, especially kids who were in this program last year and are in this program now. The amount they know is more vast than the people who didn't do this program last year, in addition to the regular school. So I do believe once we start inputting data, we are going to see growth in every student who comes to our classes. I do think it's going to happen. We'll get back to growth, but I also wanted to touch bases. We'll start with this one. So before we move on to, well, Ms. Connor, did you have anything you wanted to share? Because I didn't.
I also do like what Tracy and you say that you do, like just preempting like why are sight words important, and they're thinking like big picture, college, to do well in school and everything. So making that connection is really good for them. And they're also like pushing themselves. Like not only are they working with a sight word, but we're using it in like sentences. So like,
awesome.
Stuff that they can apply to their classes too.
Awesome, you
So that's
guys.
all good.
So Ms. Perkins and I think Mr. Beata and Mr. Williams, with our older grades, we know that it's hard to keep our older kids invested in this program. It's much easier with the little guys. Their love for school is a little bit, more vast than our bigger kids. So I had Ms. Perkins specifically do something yesterday because we were losing some of our big kids. They lost interest. They didn't want to go. They were going to masters instead. And we faced the same issue last year. And retaining those big kids is important. Ms. Chiabia wants the big kids to be part of the program, so obviously, and our teachers want to be there for their students as well. So I asked Ms. Perkins yesterday to do a survey of her group, and she literally asked the kids, what would you like to get out of this program? Are there books that you want to read? So I want to hear what they said, Tracy. What were the big kids' thoughts? How can we make this more attractive and appealing and keep them with us?
So I filled a whole board, basically, an entire whiteboard full of suggestions. I'm going to tell you all of them, and then I kind of had them vote on which ones were most interesting, because of course some kids were interested, some were not. Things like prize box, more computer time, and not just like reading, they want to do like math games too. And I said, they want to earn candy or chips, or like if we had like some sort of junk food incentive in the classroom.
That's totally doable.
Yep. They want to watch incorporate more videos. They want to like listen to different types of people reading to them.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I thought that was
That's
really cool.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
And YouTube is a world of wealth of books.
Yep.
So if they can come up with book titles, or you brainstorm that with them, that's an easy up on the screen, listen to them read, have a discussion. That's a really smart choice.
Oh, you'll love the last one. Well, I'll just skip to that one because that was my favorite. They were like, can we read like scripts and then like act them out? And I was like, I literally have Reader's Theater planned for you guys.
Yes.
They didn't know the word Reader's Theater, but that's what they wanted. So that was great.
Awesome.
They wanted, they had the idea of that they could earn tickets in order to get free stuff at school. So they wanted like front of the lunch line passes, or free tickets to the school dance, or
I love
free
that.
tickets to Harvest Festival, stuff like that. And I
That's
was like,
brilliant.
that
So,
sounds
like,
cool.
privileges.
That's brilliant, and
exactly.
it costs nothing.
Exactly.
So,
And that's even
Um,
better. Nothing costs
right?
nothing is the
Yeah.
best.
so that
Oh,
I
that
think,
sounds pretty good.
yeah,
And then I made them make a list of types of books that they want to read, because none of them could come up with actual titles. They're most interested in comic books or graphic novels, which, yes, but like if we're doing guided reading, I worry about it because there's a lot of nuances that you miss with that.
So-
But I think it's still an option.
Well, and there's Story Nori, and then like there's a whole website where actors read stories to
Oh,
kids.
you'll have to let me know what
What
that
is
website
that?
is.
It's
Um,
storyonline.com.
Yeah, Story Online.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Story Online.
yes.
yeah.
I
It's
used to
super cool. You got like huge.
I used to use it all the time, but now I've moved to books. So.
Yeah.
I don't know actors. but-
Usually with Story Nori.
Story Nori, and then they have a British accent, and then storyonline.net.
It's
And they
by
read like
bunch of actors.
I just don't know any popular actors or anything.
Yeah.
Name them. I'm
There
sorry,
was-
but like,
that's okay.
okay, here's like just Stregonona, very old,
Yeah.
well known. A Bad Case of Stripes.
Oh, that's a great story.
The Tale of Two
All the
Beasts,
old
The
ones.
Empty Pot, Arnie and the Donut.
So that might be something that Mr. Vieta could pick up on his end.
Yeah.
We're hearing the kids say they want some time on computers, and I think if we're utilizing Raz Kids, as well as Miss Souza is getting Read Live done for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys are gonna have access to Read Live as well as Raz Kids. So if the kids wanna use computers,
Yeah.
you can allow them to use the technology as long as it's literacy based, and you can pull small groups with that if you prefer.
And they had this, I don't want to say it's crazy, it was a very creative idea where they had regular tutoring 2 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and then another day in the week, whether it be Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, was like a computer day where they got to have their computer time, and they only earned the computer time if they worked hard in tutoring.
Wow, the kids were on it. I mean,
Oh, they had, like-
they were on it.
And when I say I filled a whiteboard, I literally filled an entire whiteboard.
So I love these ideas, and I think that they're worth us spending some time investing in them. And when we get down to the piece down here where we're going to talk about incentives for Raz Kids,
Yeah.
we can definitely choose which of those incentives seem like the ones we want to go with. Privileges is a great one, and that costs us nothing.
Right.
So maybe looking online or thinking of privileges ourselves, and then starting with our very first rotation, offering privileges instead of, or you can choose a slap bracelet or you can choose a privilege. And we can have privileges all in a little bucket, like little pieces of paper.
Or they pull
You
out.
draw
You
the
just-
hat, you see what you get.
Oh, I like
And it could be
that.
something as simple as no shoes in class. And we can speak to our teachers and let them know, hey, we need you to honor this because the student earned this for doing, their work and participating
Can we
in
stay
our
away from
program.
no shoes in class when we're in the rainy season? And
Yes.
And you have 6th
Also,
graders
I
who
don't
already
think-
stink.
I don't
I
think
know.
are we allowed to according to code?
I don't
Because
know.
I
That
feel
was
like
just an
okay, I was gonna
example.
say because I feel like I've always been told, well, if the fire bell rings,
Right.
they have to go out, and they're gonna stay to put their shoe on.
So obviously we'll have to use some discretion as to
Right.
what those privileges are, but privileges are free, and I love that the
that's
kids
good.
are interested in those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Front of the line,
It's all
tickets to the
status,
park,
right?
yeah,
And
right.
especially for that age, status is really. I mean, status is important at every age, but status is
They
really
already know
important
they're in
to older kids.
tutoring.
Yeah.
And
so.
the other thing I felt like I heard real clearly from the big kids is that they're interested in the food aspect
Yes.
of an incentive. And that seems to be true for big kids always.
Yeah.
So when I talk to Ms. Kiabiab about incentives, I'll plan our incentives for the little ones to be still the little prizes. But I do believe it's fair for our big kids. We can grab a box of chips from Costco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's not an issue. So as long as we, I think the things they said were valid, and I think it wouldn't be that hard to honor those things.
Yeah.
And our next bullet point, or number 2 in check-in, is direct instruction. So Ms. Kiabiab is 100% going to be walking in her classrooms, and as we well know, if we're not in direct instruction in a small group or interacting with our students, she will come to us and say, hey, this doesn't look like this is going to work out. So I just want to give the heads up reminder that she will be walking through, and to make sure that when we're doing this program, we're actually facilitating them working directly with them.
Yeah.
Because computer time is good and all, but if it's just the kids and computers and us sitting alone, then she's going to cut it off, and rightly so.
So a clarifying question: are we allowed to use computers at all?
100% yes. Computers are absolutely usable as long as you are doing something with a small group. It can even be one-on-one, it can be you and one student, but it has to be that you're interacting with the students, because if she comes in and doesn't see that, she's gonna
So
speak
she
to
wants,
me,
like,
which means
it's
I'll have to speak to all of us.
Supposed to be an hour of direct instruction, like,
So like 30 minutes of like,
or maybe even 20, I don't know.
I don't think it's that cut and dry. I just think as long
With
as
kids.
if you are, let's say for example, you know that one kid is dying on long vowels, they just can't figure it out. You can pull that one kid on long vowels and give everybody else the 15 to 20 minutes on RAS Kids. You know, that's not gonna be an issue. RAS
Okay.
Kids is a valuable source, as will Revive will be too.
Okay.
How does everybody feel about that one? Does everybody feel okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Bieta, what we'll do with you is, I'll chat with these guys and we will talk about divvying up, the group, the 5th and 6th group. And when do you feel comfortable starting? Do you wanna start next Tuesday back in with us?
Basketball practices are at 3:15, so if I could, get the kids out by like,
3 or
3:05 and then be in there by 3:15, I should be fine.
Okay, so Ms. Perkins and I will chat, only because Ms. Perkins has the 5th, 6th grade right now. We'll chat and figure out when
No
and how
problem.
we'll do that.
Yep.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Bieta, we appreciate you.
Just a clarifying point
Of
on that.
course.
My idea for using computers for my specific group was I have this one book that I want them to read. I only have 4 copies. So my idea was I pull a group of 4, the rest are on computers. We read a couple pages and then we flip.
That's
Something like that, okay?
That's exactly how I'm utilizing it. I have the 2nd graders, and the variance of reading levels goes anywhere from a kindergarten reading level to almost the end of 1st grade, getting ready for 2nd grade. So I'm doing the same thing. I have reading groups listed out over on a chart over there, and the kids who are not sitting with me reading are on RAS Kids.
Mhm.
Because RAS Kids, Ms. Kiabia approved that as an individual fluency building skill, we're good to go on using it. The only thing we can't do is have her walk into the room and us not be engaged with the kids. And we already know that.
Yeah,
that's
so if
not
you're
an
sitting at
issue.
your desk on your phone and they're all on computers, she's gonna be like, hey,
As she
maybe
told
try
us,
again next year.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
And we're all aware of that. Everybody feel good about the first one? Is there anything that anyone feels needs to be adjusted? Aside from this movement of our kids because we're getting so large.
we're gonna be using the Chromebooks that are already in our classroom in regards to RAS and all that, right?
Yeah, and what I did with our little guys, and I don't know whether you wanna do this or not, but my little guys have their passwords on their desk. So the 2nd graders, I'm just leaving my kids' computers, they're numbered, they go, 24 goes to 24. So they're just using that person's password to get in. Because there's nothing that they're getting into this account to see. So that might save you the time and
Okay,
effort
that
of
makes
having to
sense.
log every child into the computer. Because our little guys can't do it for themselves, the big guys can't. Little guys, it's a lot of time that you would have to put.
Okay, got it.
Anything else that anyone thinks needs to be looked at? I think our biggest need right now to adjust is the numbers. Because I think what are we at? I'm at 16,
17.
If everybody came
17.
and, yeah.
And about 13.
If everyone came, I think it's 16.
Yeah, I think yesterday you were at 16 or 17. So Ms. Souza will be pulling from us and Mr. Vieta will be pulling from you guys.
Yeah.
If the littlest amount we can possibly have, she said 10, the district says 6. So, we can pick and go from there. As the year progresses, when we start looking at data and all that, we'll start making some choices on, do we see students who we feel no longer need this assistance? We have lines out the door to get in this program. I mean, kid after kid is like, can I come? So if we do see a student who is seemingly no longer in need, that's something we definitely need to make sure we're aware of and passing that information on. Although I don't think we're at that point yet,
No,
right? I
no.
don't think anyone's at that point yet.
I do have a question about students where the tutoring isn't really going to help them. What about those kids?
Why isn't it gonna help? Why isn't it gonna help?
So
them?
here's my answer to that one, guys, and here's what I would say. Even if you're seeing nothing coming from what you're doing in terms of data, exposure is exposure, regardless of whether it looks like they're actually getting anything. So even if they're, sped or there's a big language barrier. Like I've got one of my 2nd graders who is in our program and he speaks very little English, but even though he can't do the reading, he's hearing every single thing that goes on. So I think we have to think of it more as they're getting something out of it.
Right.
They may not be picking up the reading level, they might not improve their iReady score, but something, by being part of this overwhelming amount of literacy, it's going to affect them somehow. Do you guys feel like that's
Yeah.
Sure.
appropriate?
Right.
Okay, let's take a look at the next bullet point. So logistics. We've already gone through our thinning out of numbers. I guess we've done logistics. We're gonna add Mr. Vieta, so we're on assessments and data. So our last day is November 14th. Does everyone know what final assessment they're going to be giving?
Is it okay if it's the same as the beginning?
I would assume that it should be, right?
Okay, yeah.
So why don't we just take a turn kind of saying, here's the assessment that I'm gonna give, that way we all kind of know what we're doing.
Yeah.
My assessment is basically, I made it based off of the BPST. I just changed the words, but it's gonna be the same with letter sounds, short vowels, consonant digraphs, like kind of all the way up into what would be considered near end of first grade. Because I have the first graders right now, but I'm assuming that the second graders will probably also be kind of there too.
Excellent. So we've got a phonics assessment that's very similar to the BPST, but not the BPST. So that's how we're assessing phonics the first time around. I know Ms. Connor made her own complete sight word list, and so go ahead, Ms. Connor. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I took, 5 words from each of the levels, pre-primer, primer, first grade, second grade, third grade, and I have them read those. So I'll do that
Perfect.
again.
So
Perfect.
you're using Dolch instead of fries?
Yes.
And we kind of cross-referenced them when she made her assessment. She kind of went through and picked the hardest words out of all of those lists,
Right.
so that she could get an overall view of the kids.
Well, and it's the same guy. He just asked people to stop using Dolch and just use fries, but it doesn't matter.
Right, same-
But
same
he updated them, yeah.
I was thinking about, since there's 3 different domains for the IAB, because I'm really teaching this skill.
Right.
So the first one is main and central idea. The second skill is inference. The next is vocabulary. And it's on both on the reading and informational
Gotcha.
text. So I was thinking about coming up with something like that, and then just maybe have the kids can you explain to me the difference between a narrative and informational text, something like that, just so they understand those skills, and I've been more working on comprehensive, but I want to kind of focus in a little bit more this time on inference,
Okay.
because it's just I'm sorry, an hour is just not enough
It
time.
isn't. It goes by the
And I'm
blink
just
of an
being
eye.
honest with you.
No,
it's just,
it isn't.
there's
It's
so
those
much
of
that
us
I
who
want
did
to
it
like
right.
cram in.
You were
I
right.
know.
No,
I
you're
feel
right. Yesterday, it was Tuesday yesterday, right? Yesterday we got going and just the kids eating snack and going to the bathroom.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
come on
Exactly.
guys, we gotta go. Our
Exactly.
time goes so
Exactly.
Well, with the little
Yeah.
ones, they just want to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So with
So
the
you have to drop
bathrooms,
them
guys,
off.
I'm just kind of telling them, you go and snack and you don't go otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it takes
Yep.
so much time, and
Just
we
like
only,
mine.
as Mr. Williams said, an hour. Really, you blink your eye, your hour's over. Tracy, how about you?
So I have 2 different fluency assessments. I start out with a second grade, and if they pass it, no problem. Then I bump them up to a 5th grade level one, and then I measured almost everyone on both, except for one student who didn't pass second. So I'll be doing the same thing, just with a different passage. That way it's a cold read.
Awesome. So for myself, I did a pre-assessment of reading levels. On their post-assessment, I'm going to try to really do an actual running record on every kid, because I want to really see what their actual reading level is, and I don't know if we're going to be required to produce documentation, so my plan is to make sure that I have some sort of documentation to go with it. Mr. Williams, the same thing might be necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it may be necessary to maybe like type out 3 questions,
Yeah.
explain what inference means, explain what are, here's 3 passages, which one is the narrative, which one is the,
I like that.
Informational.
text. Okay.
yeah, just so that we can provide proof to the pudding, right? Because we know that we've been told multiple times this program costs a lot of money, and I want to make sure that the money we're spending,
We can justify it.
our principal
Yeah.
realizes that it's worth its time and effort and it's worthwhile.
Our text deadlines.
Exactly. Any questions about assessments? I think the only other thing we'll have to do is make sure that we enter our assessment data before we return and pick up our next group. So even over your Thanksgiving break, you're just gonna throw it in. Our data spreadsheet is in our drive now. So I moved that over there. You can just click on the drive.
And I
click
noticed
on-
you made a second drive. There's already a 7th hour.
I made a new one because we have so much of our old documentation from last year in there.
Well, there's 2 different ones from 1819, one's 1920.
Exactly. So I just started throwing
No,
everything
I
this
mean
year.
in the other one.
Oh, there
and
is?
all the members are in the other one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So maybe we should look at combining.
Yeah, maybe we can put them together, which would make more sense.
I put the EPST like assessment that I made. I put that on there. I thought that's what you meant for a second.
We're gonna call it the J. Jessica Alvarez test. JAT.
JAT. I don't know.
JAT.
So for mine, as soon as SIPS comes, I'll start using the SIPS. They have a pre and post.
Perfect. Now, in the meanwhile, while she doesn't have SIPs, maybe you want to do the same one as Jessica's doing. It's like the BPST.
I don't know. You can look at it if you want.
You won't have to pre-assess because they've all
They've already been pre-assessed.
So
Yeah.
you'd only have to post-assess.
I should use whatever you guys.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good. So, does everybody feel comfortable with the idea that we're going to throw our post-assessment data into that spreadsheet
Yeah.
before we come back and grab our next group? Does that seem legit?
Yeah, that's the 7th hour student data tracking 1920.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then when we meet for our next PLC, I don't know if we'll meet before this, but I'm assuming we probably won't see each other until we have that data in a PLC format, and then we're going to really look to see what growth we've made, which I think is going to be awesome for us. There are going to be our kids who are in particular our stud kids, who we may not physically see that growth, but I do believe, I'm watching a couple of them here. I mean, I didn't think the kid was going to be able to get up and read anything yesterday, and he did. So even though we may not necessarily see those things, or it may not show up in the data,
Still shows
teacher observation is a worthwhile tool as well, I feel like. So I think,
And it might come in for SST IEPs.
yeah, exactly, right? So I guess that takes us to, we had discussed, I had discussed trying out this growth monitoring from iReady, but we're gonna be doing the diagnostic coming up in the next couple of weeks. There's no need to double test our kids.
Yeah.
So we will use the iReady second diagnostic to look for growth as well. So we're gonna use our own assessments that we created. And then we'll also be checking in on their iReady scores to see, did their iReady score go up from the first time? I'm 100% sure most of them are going to. And that's also our program as well as our teachers and ourselves in our classrooms every day.
When is that?
Because I'm seeing a small.
I believe, Jen, when's the window?
Do you want me to
November,
look?
it's coming up like soon.
Yeah,
I wanna
when
say
is
it's
it?
right before conferences?
Really?
Right
It's on.
during
You can.
conferences?
I think you guys can see when it is.
Yeah,
Your own
I wanna say
identity?
it's around, it's either the week of conferences and the week before. It's 2 week time period. They mentioned it in leadership, I don't 100% remember the dates off the top of my head, but it is coming right at the beginning of November and before we go on vacation. And before report cards, because you can print out those cool family information sheets and use those at conferences if you want to. If you want us to show you, we'll show you.
It opens November 6th and closes November 22nd. So
Perfect.
November
Okay,
basically.
next week.
So there's no reason to do a growth monitoring when they're already taking a diagnostic anyway.
And then the last one is in March.
So we have 2 forms of assessment, which I feel pretty good about. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm
You know,
good,
that's
yeah.
great to me too.
Yeah.
So now we're to incentives. We had some awesome incentives as far as the kids' ideas. So Raz Kids, what my thought was, or what we're hoping to achieve, is use of the program at home. So between Ms. Sosa and I, by Tuesday, we should have everybody up and ready and their parent letters printed. The parent letter is going to give them their login, explain the program to the parent. I will type up a letter that tells the parent about how Raz Kids attaches to 7th hour. Any suggestions, anything you want to say. What I'm going to kind of be talking about is, here's our at-home program, please utilize this tool. The kids are participating in an incentive program, and that's where I need your help. What do we want to do? How do we want to incentivize it? How do we want to benchmark when you get those incentives?
And this is going to be separate from the kids that are being offered the at-home, but did not sign up for 7th hour, right?
So that's a good question. So all of our students that are with us are going to be given Raz Kids for a year. So they get it all the way until this time next year. We had some extra license spots available. So we had talked quickly, and you guys tell me what you think. We thought we would look at our nomination list and choose some students from that nomination list who maybe didn't get into the program because it is so heavily impacted, but might still be, into using Raz Kids at home.
That would
So,
actually use it.
That would actually use it. So that's something I'll shoot an email out, and you guys can say, hey, I think these people would use it.
Yeah.
After Ms. Sosa and I get everybody in, I think we were looking at like 36 spaces. I think
That
we've
sounds
got
right.
about 36 available.
Yeah.
And we did go through our nomination list and kind of chat about students. This one would use it, this one doesn't have technology at home, this one's probably gonna not use it. So once we kind of look at that, and if there's extra spaces, we'll just shoot it out there to you guys. And it doesn't even have to be someone in the program, it could be
Gotcha.
someone from your classroom if you've got enough space. I'm hoping
I
that
also think Grass Kids has its own reward because it has all that stuff built in.
it's got
I love
tons
it.
of good incentives, and the way it looks is different by the third grade. So what you see in the little kids' home screen will be different for the older kids' home screen, which I think is important. They differentiated it. But so we talked last time about an incentive. We've got some good incentives from the kids. What do you think? How should we track, and how often should we track? When should we? What should the goal be for the kids? I was envisioning I think I told you guys this before, like a racetrack or cars. We give the kids a car that we copy, they color it, they put their name on it with a Sharpie. We line all their cars up in one spot on one of the walls in the cafeteria, and then we take, type out pieces of paper and lay them down for every 20-minute no. So our goal is 20 minutes a night, 5 days a week. That's like the literacy goal, right?
Wow, if they could do that.
To improve reading at home. Now, obviously, if they could do that, that would be phenomenal, right? But maybe that's where we set the, I don't know what you want to call it. What would you call it in a racetrack? Like a stopping point?
The starting line.
Yeah, like a.
Finish line.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Starting line, finish line, kind of thing, or?
Yes.
As
Finish
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Starting line and finish line.
But if the finish line's down here.
Did you guys hear
at-
that?
If the finish line's down here at 500 minutes, we'd have
Starting
400
line.
minutes, 300 minutes. So their cars would just be
Oh,
increments?
just different increments.
Teachers at 3 o'clock have
Right.
nothing left.
Absolutely. And we're almost done with time, guys. So that's what I was thinking. How do you guys feel about that?
Sounds good to me.
So we
Or
will.
like a picture of them.
A picture would be.
You could put a little picture of them in the car. We a teacher came
Yeah,
up
that
with
would be
this because
cool.
he did it as a kid and loved it,
Yeah,
and we
this
did
at another
it.
school.
That's
And the
cute.
kids, and at lunch, everyone would be like, "Look where you are! Look where you are!"
And I think what would end up
I think-
happening is that our kids who are not in the program would be like,
Want to
well,
be
I
in the
want to do
program.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's helping build that culture of reading at our school, which
Yeah.
is what we're dying for. You know,
Yeah.
it's what our kids need. So I think if we can start that, it might make a bigger thing happen. Maybe not, this year, but possibly for next year for the whole school. So I will look for. You guys can look too. We just need race cars, and I like the idea of something about this big.
And do we have the wood cut, the die cuts? Do they have?
Yeah, but I don't know if we have race car die cut. But check this out. So these are at the dollar store.
Oh, look at that!
But
Perfect.
something like this size, right?
Yeah.
And if we run copies of it, the kids could color it the way they want.
Oh,
And we Sharpie their name on. They cut their car out. We collect other cars. Everybody starts at that starting line somewhere in the cafeteria. And then if we think about 20 minutes, 5 nights a week, 20, what is that? That's 250.
I don't want to do math.
I know, my brain can't do that
Wait,
math right
say
now.
the numbers again.
So it's 20 times 5. If you're reading 20 minutes,
It's 100.
That's 100. I was gonna say, wait,
thank
what?
God for the
PLC.
PLC.
Yeah.
So I guess that means
Yeah.
we would do increments of 100.
Mm-hmm.
So 100,
makes sense.
200, 300
All the way to 5.
to 5. And then if they keep going past that, we'd have to extend the racetrack past
Which
that.
is perfect.
And
They could be off-roading.
yeah, right. And we can input at the bottom of each increment what the incentive is. Frontline privileges, bag of chips, slap bracelet, I don't know, something like that. So
How many kids are in the program?
Mr. Williams and I, giving out snack on a daily basis, are looking at between 65 and 68, 67.
So there's going to be
Yeah.
65, 68 cars in the.
So we're gonna have to look at the cafeteria and see. What if they're this big?
It would be hard in
fine.
our cafeteria. We have
Right, we
windows
have
on our
giant
inside.
walls.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have
What
a
if
huge
we had a different
windowless
racetrack for each grade?
Or
And then
maybe
you could differentiate the incentives too.
Oh, yeah.
I
like
think
that.
maybe we should do racetrack for
1
our
through
4
3.
through 6 and 1 through 3. I think that's probably an appropriate idea. So if you guys are up for helping look for cars, let's try to get our cars into our next.
Like a black
Next
and
week's
white,
session.
clip easy.
Just any little clip art coloring page
Yeah.
that we can
Yeah.
find.
Oh, we
And-
should look at the noun project. Remember I was using that with
Oh
Judy?
yeah, they have a lot of different clip art. And then we'll have them write their name, color it, cut it out, we'll collect them, and we'll start getting them up on the cafeteria. If we as teams if you guys can help come up with the 5 best incentives for the big kids, and then we need to brainstorm the 5 best incentives for the little kids. So we can do that, hopefully, I don't know when you guys want to have that done by. If we can get this racetrack up and going, if we get Raz Kids done this weekend, which is our goal,
We will.
pass all the letters out next Tuesday, which in fact leads me to this. To do the Raz Kids letter pass out and to incentivize, to tell everybody about it, we may need to have an all group meeting. So, I mean, all of our kids come with all of us to possibly the library, and we explain how Raz Kids work and Raz Kids works and what the incentives are. So why don't we make it a goal, if you guys are up for it, to have that be next Thursday?
Yeah.
Next Thursday, I will ask if we can use the library, and instead of going to our classrooms, perfect, Jessica.
I like
Yeah.
Like, look at that little bug. These are all kids.
Yeah, I like, yeah.
Right? This
Yeah.
is perfect. If we, I mean, we could send 65 copies over to the printer right now if we want to.
Yeah, that's the one I found.
I want to send one just to see, make sure it works before. I
Yeah,
send it.
exactly.
Okay, that's true. That's true. And then, okay, so you guys feel comfortable with saying next Thursday, let's bring all of our kids after snack into the library. And I will ask Marissa to have the TV available so that we can show Raz Kids and kind of walk them through what it looks like.
Yeah.
I've never seen the big kid version, so when Miss Sosa and I mess around this weekend, hopefully we'll be able to check out the big kid version too. I've only seen the little kid version.
Oh wait.
And I think the incentives that we learned about from the big kids was really valuable. Getting our students' input, I think, made a big difference. And feel free to do that with your kids too. It's absolutely an okay thing to say to the little ones, what can we do to make this more interesting for you? How can we make sure that you stay in this program? Because we're now expecting them to be here till April 30th,
Yep.
you know? I also want to share on that Thursday, we can share with them what their plans are when the program is complete. Last year, they knew going into it that they were going to watch a movie and have a pizza party.
Yes.
I will speak with our principal, and I will ask if we can do some type of food incentive, whether it's a popsicle, something for them. And then the idea of the read-in, you bring books, you bring a blanket, you wear your PJs, you stretch out. Hopefully we get the cafeteria, they can stretch out. We can even do different reading stations for them. You know, maybe we're each at a station and we read a book to them or something like that. So just start thinking, we got a long time till it happens, but start thinking maybe just, you know, what would make this cool? How could this be a fun event for all of us?
I think it's kind of big.
Like 2
We want
per
to just,
Half a page.
We can shrink it though, but it can be a quarter
page
page.
2.
I'll send it and we'll figure that
Or-
out.
Or a half page, depending on how high we put it up.
so we've met our time, guys. Does anybody else feel like that? Anything else to say or want to go with? So awesome. The next time we meet will be to actually look at data, which I'm kind of excited about because I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised, not just you know, from the data, but
I
see
want to
it in
say thanks for
real
putting all
life.
this together so
Yeah,
we can do it in an
thank you.
organized way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
Hey guys,
Because
me
I don't
too, 'cause I
think the
can't do this
principal
by
was gonna
myself.
let us, she's picky, you know, she wasn't gonna let us just do our own thing or have homework club. So
Right.
this is good, it's an
Right.
opportunity for all of us.
But I hear what the big kids said about the computer lab, and I think that an open forum for you to go use a computer at school. I will present that, not for 7th hour, but just in general.
Right.
Because they used to have stuff like that and they no longer do.
Well, they got rid of our computer lab, what, 2 years ago?
But you know, Ms. Larson, opening a classroom and having someone allow the kids to go in and do Raz Kids at Masters.
Right.
To do, you know, whatever, you know, academic program.
Who do you guys think I should take?
All right, you guys, I'm cutting this video.
Okay.
She did do it.
Who should I just come and grab? I know I'm gonna take